week again, 1 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. My nemesis, Jackie Long, is here. I'm just kidding. Because everybody loves her so much, and that's a great thing. She's seriously, I've got a lot of messages from people talking about all kinds of mental health issues and hypnosis in particular. Again, this is Jackie Long. Her company is called Jackie Long Hypnosis.
Yep.
And you can see her. She has a website, JackieLongHypnosis.com. You can see her on Instagram. Are people coming into your office at all now? It's all done virtually.
I do everything virtually.
Okay. And again, I know this is what our fourth show we've done. So I just want to make sure everybody understands when we talk about hypnosis. Jackie was really educated me and a bunch of other listeners on really what hypnosis is. So can you go over it one more time again, just so everybody understands what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So hypnosis is really just a natural state that we go in and out of all day long. And the point of hypnotherapy is to basically induce that state on purpose so that you can work with a goal or an intention or something that you're wanting to achieve, maybe a phobia you're trying to get rid of, maybe, a business goal you're trying to hit. So a number of things.
Cool. Very cool. So here's an indication. One of our loyal listeners and veteran, Barry Shelley, Jackie's back. So he doesn't say, well, at least now Ron was nice enough to include me in the salutations, like Jackie and Tom. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Yeah. Thanks. Very nice. All right. So we joke around on our other show that we do with my old teammates on Thursday about guys getting divorced. Actually, I've got a good friend of mine, is Bill Burr, a comedian. And I saw him do a skit the other day. It might have been on a TikTok or something. And he said, why are people getting married? He said, this is terrible to say it. He says, haven't they seen the statistics? 1 out of every 2 marriages fail. He says, if you got on a plane with those odds, thinking that 1 out of 2 planes are going to crash, would you get on the plane? He went on and on. It was hilarious. But
oh my gosh.
I know. So that is the statistics, right? 1 out of 2 marriages fail.
That's what I hear.
Jackie, so I'm divorced twice. Jackie's happily married. So this is not pertaining to Jackie. It's more pertaining to I just think guys in general. I don't know. Okay, well, why? I mean, this is a very general question. Obviously, I've asked you. Why is that rate so high? Why can men and women cannot stay married in a lot of cases? I know there's a lot of different reasons, but
yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be different for everyone, but I think it also depends on, the time of your life and what age you're getting married and how much work you've done on yourself, really. Did you take the time to get to know yourself? Did you take the time to really figure out what you want in a relationship? And the only way to actually figure that out is to be in a relationship, to learn with another person. So it makes sense that as humans, we would have failed relationships or marriages or things that go on maybe before we find the right fit. We have to try things first.
Yeah.
So.
I when I was in the Asian business representing players, that a client of mine had a really sweet girlfriend that didn't get her a long time. He was unhappy in the relationship. He actually would put a lot of work into it. He went and met with the NHL and the Player Association, had a team of psychiatrists working more to help with drugs and alcohol, but with a lot of different issues. So he actually sat down with them and they explained to him, I can't remember the exact number, but they came up with a number like for every person, there's like 1,500 exact matches around the world, whatever that number was. So it kind of reassuring him that, okay, listen, we're not telling you to break up with her, but if you do, don't feel like there's nobody else out there. So
right. I think there's a lot of matches for people, and there's so many factors that go into making a relationship work. And I think the most important thing is you have to be both growing in the same direction. You have to be growing together. If you're not growing, you're just staying still or you're dying, and it doesn't work, right?
Well, that's a great point, right? Because so you get married, let's say in your late 20s, 30s, whatever it is. And then, like I noticed with myself, I've really changed who I am over the last 5 or 6 years. So if I've been in a relationship, hopefully I'm a better person now than I was before.
Yeah.
But I have changed. So if I was still married, the person that got married to me would now be married to a different person, really. Like a lot of.
Yeah. I mean, it's realistic to expect most people to change over time, right? The person you marry on that day, they're going to have some of the same characteristics or values and things, but a lot can change over time. You hope that you both grow as individuals and then together, and that does have to match up. And of course, the commitment, right? Life is hard. There's always going to be hard things. And it's about, re-choosing that commitment over and over again. I mean, really is what it's about. It's easy to give up. It's not easy to stay the course.
That's the thing, right? It's so easy to get divorced now. And it's such a common thing.
It's common.
So I grew up on a farm in Canada, and people just didn't get divorced there. I wasn't around it, never understood it. So when I first got divorced, my boys were small. And that was really the hardest part. My marriage, unfortunately, was over with. We'd gotten married when I was playing. We weren't, it just, once we decided to get divorced, we relaxed and just concentrated on the children. But I really felt like, what have I done to my kids' lives? The good thing that came from that was that I made sure I spent so much time with them that I have a fantastic relationship with them. But there was a period of time there where I was a mess because I just was, God, what have I done to my kids' lives? Like you said, I got married with the intention I'm going to stay married.
Yeah, I think everybody does, right? Everyone has that intention, and life happens. And, it's obviously difficult if children are involved and you want to make sure, everything's okay for them.
So do you get involved? Do people come to you for help or assistance or going through things when they're having marital problems as well?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have people going through life transitions, like people going through divorces or life after divorce, kind of redefining themselves, things like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know we talked about this too, but you do deal with children, and is it sometimes children dealing with the parents' divorce?
Yeah, so I used to do a lot of that work more in my school psychology days than now. But yeah, I mean, kids, they have a lot to process during a divorce. So I always think like the most important thing with that is just have open communication with them. Let them know, what's going on, where they stand. Obviously, they're kids. You can't always use adult language with them, but as much as they can understand, rather than hide things from them, really just let them in on, as much as you can about, hey, this is what's going on, and just let them know they're safe and they're loved.
Right. Yeah. We, like I said, my ex and I were great at getting divorced. My children's mother, it's funny to say it that way, but it was like our marriage had gotten to a terrible point. We just couldn't be together. And we went to a marriage counselor. And that was a great thing because it was clear after the second time of going that we just need to get divorced. And to her credit as well, we went to a child psychiatrist and just, okay, what do we need to do? The biggest thing he said was just don't ever badmouth each other in front of the kids. And we were divorced in Michigan. She was from Rye, New York, so she moved back to this area. I was going to move back with them. Didn't matter. I was running my agent business. Didn't matter where I was. So it worked out well. We stayed in the house together there until we were moving back here. And just moved into two different homes. So for the kids, it really wasn't a big deal. I mean, the move was the move, but they're fine. They're fantastic. They're in the my oldest one's married. He is a total gentleman to his wife. My younger one lives with his girlfriend. They're both total gentlemen. I looked at them both, and they've lasted through the pandemic, all working from home.
There you go.
I know, and I'm thinking to myself, what happened? Like, I guess I must have done a better job of teaching them something than I did myself in relationships. So it was funny.
Yeah, I mean, we all have different lessons, I think, to go through in life, and some people are there for a short time, and some maybe a longer time or forever. You know.
Yeah, totally true. So Barry brings up a good point here too about divorce, which is very important. Let them know they weren't the cause of divorce. That was the other, and that's exactly right, Barry. That was the other. I'm sure Jackie, you're agreeing there. That was the other thing the marriage counselor said to us: just reassure them that they have nothing to do with it. So
absolutely, yeah,
definitely. All right, so let's say somebody's in a relationship, they haven't gotten married yet, or maybe they have, and things are getting rocky for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. I find to myself, and I guess this is where you would come in to help. It's just, there's a lot of stubbornness gets in too. Like, there's a bunch of the relationship, let's say it's been there for 3 or 4 years and things have happened during the 3 or 4 years that build up and build up. It's almost like letting go of that. Is it possible to say like letting go of the stuff that really has nothing to do with what's going on right now? Just concentrate what's going on right now. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And I know that can be hard to do because actually, I work with the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind's job is to hold on actually to all of those little things, those bad things, those resentments, anything that was like a slight to you, because it thinks it's trying to keep you safe. So its job is to look for the negative first, actually, because it's, creating like a guard or a shield for yourself. And it's picking out all those little things that are wrong or things that have happened. And then, they kind of stack upon each other in your brain. So then when that other person says one little thing to you and it triggers you, and all of those memories come back, and it's like, then you don't even know what you're fighting about anymore. Because, right. You're like, where were we?
Well, that's amazing the way you put that there. So that's actually the way your subconscious mind is working to protect you. Don't let go of those things that have happened to you in the past. Wow.
Well, we want to work on letting them go, but the subconscious mind does like to hold on to them. So it's like, don't beat yourself up about it, because it's the natural way your mind works. but
Oh,
you have to actively work on, okay, I'm not going to hold on to those things. Let me look at this. Is this really something that, I need to hold on to, or can I let this go and move forward?
wow. I don't feel like such a stubborn jerk then now that you've explained it that way. Because there's been times I think to myself, Tom, just drop it. It's in the past. But
Mhm.
that's interesting to explain that. So you can train yourself you're actually you're targeting your subconscious mind to say, no, okay, listen, I know you're there to protect me, but I need to let you go. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so we're, some of the time we're humans, so we're conscious beings. We want to kind of override some of those animal instincts, if you will. That's what separates us from being, an animal versus a
Right.
human being. So work
Wow,
to do always.
that's very cool the way you explain that. So wow, that's so the way we act then, there's a rationale for why we're acting that way. We can always correct it. Is that
Typically, I mean, I wouldn't say, always. There's
right?
just so many different driving forces that drive, each person individually. What are their triggers? What things have happened to them in their life? What are they exposed to? What is their subconscious memory holding on to and
Right.
warning them of, what's coming up?
Well,
So,
what about jealousy, or maybe even one of the two people in the relationship has cheated on the other?
mhm,
But you still see people that can survive that and the
right.
relationship. That's got to be the harder one to do, though, right? I mean, now
Mhm.
let's say the husband or vice versa, the man's cheated on the woman, and every time he walks out the door, doesn't the woman now wonder what's going on, or can she
I
get back?
mean, right, that depends on the person, their relationship, what kinds of things they've set in place or worked through, or probably seen a marriage counselor for that. I'd imagine that would be very difficult to go through for anybody. Yeah.
Wow, I've seen that, and I just think to myself, I guess I give him credit, especially if there's kids involved, to stick together and be able to survive.
Mhm.
Um, all right, how about jealousy then? Is it like it just seems like it's human nature to have a certain amount of jealousy, but it's how you handle it. Is that accurate to say that?
I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. I think it just like depends on the person, and it's probably based on different triggers. Like someone is getting jealous because they have an insecurity within themselves, or they think there's not enough of something, right? They think there's lack, there's not enough to go around, so I need to be jealous of this other person.
Uh,
When in reality there's more than enough of everything for everyone.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because it does seem like some people just handle are more comfortable. Their beautiful wife is around other men all the time. It doesn't seem to bother them. Where other guys should just be. I don't know. Part of it is too, isn't it? Life experiences a little bit too. Like you've seen things. Some
Yeah, it depends on what you've experienced, right? If that's, if you see, that kind of stuff go on and it doesn't go well, then
yeah,
that's all right? If you have examples of strong marriages or strong relationships and people are secure in that,
right,
then that's what you know. So it
yeah,
really just depends on, going back always to like it's so important who you surround yourself with and surround yourself with good examples of like what you're striving to be.
right. So I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and it was pretty. So he's open up to me talking about how much he loves his wife, but he doesn't think she loves him the same way. Like there's like
Okay.
an imbalance kind of in
Yeah.
the love there. But that's
Interesting.
isn't that? I mean, isn't that kind of always the way, or is it? I guess it's not. Maybe I guess you could be
It
the
could happen, right? It could happen. Could also be it could not always be that way. Maybe it was that day. Maybe she's
yeah,
stressed about something else and doesn't have the time to put into the really, there's so many things pulling for everyone's attention these days. There has to
yeah,
be
yeah,
kind of this balancing act going on.
right. Especially when more people are working from home, so that time that they would have separately to kind of have their own space is now gone, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the part. I,
People have had to like remanage how they function together. Yeah.
I have a buddy who's a divorce lawyer, and he's loving it. It's terrible to say that.
Probably so flush with business. It's
Oh yeah, it's just which is kind of a shame, right? That if it's just because of the pandemic, you're taking a family and separating it because they couldn't survive the pandemic. But I get it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the pandemic has definitely put a lot of stress and strain on people, but I do think it's like the problems were already there and the pandemic is just kind of the thing that really brought it to light or maybe sped up the process for
yeah,
some
totally right.
people.
Yeah, because if your marriage is really strong, your relationship is really strong. Yeah,
No,
you put it straight. They may want to run out the door screaming sometimes, but just
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's natural, right? I mean, no matter how much you love someone, you need your own space sometimes, and you need to interact with other human beings.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Just have to speak to yourself. Yeah. Well, it was funny. I was talking to an old teammate of mine. I don't mind saying it was progressors. We got really busy doing events with the Rangers during their playoff stretch there. So about 2 months of us like going out and doing stuff pretty much every other night. And now that's all over with. And in some ways, it's kind of nice. You've got some time to relax. The other part is like we're both single, both live on our own. It's like, but there is nice parts to it, right? But then you like too much of it is like, geez, I got to be around some human beings. Right?
Oh yeah. We need a balance for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Your husband, I should back up how we met. Her husband, excuse me, was on a bus. We were in Raleigh for Game 5, the Rangers game against Carolina. We got on the bus after, and this young guy was sitting beside me, and I was just amazed his level of. I said, "How old's your husband?"
He is 36.
36 is okay. Very mature, like very aware of himself, how he affects other people, his leadership skills, how he leads. And I was sitting there listening to him, like, wow, that's pretty impressive. So then we got talking about all my stuff that I do with mental health and True Red Life, and he mentioned what you do with your hypnosis. And again, at that point, I was still in that phase where I was like, oh God, this woman's going to be dangling a watch in front of my face, like you're trying to knock me out. But that's not the case here. I don't know if Jay wrote a long note here. I'm going to be careful. I don't like to put up people's Jay. If you're okay, let me know and I'll put that up there on the screen. But if it seems like it's kind of personal reading it there first. All right. So again, just to go over this, people can follow Jackie or contact her, JackieLongHypnosis.com. She's a website. You see her on Instagram and get a hold of her. And again, you don't have to go to the office and she'll talk you through. So here's what Jay said here. Here's what I've dealt with. What if you were in a relationship like I was for some 9 months, friends for 4 years? Well, she ends up ghosting me because I was struggling to find work, and I'm working now. 2 weeks after she married her new boss from her new job, and she knew for only for weeks. I'm doing great, but it is her lost on my part I've never respected. But that was a shock to me. Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that, Jay, but she seemed like you're handling it well. Okay, so there's an example. He's obviously, it seems like he's very much in love with her. She moved on pretty quickly to find somebody else, her boss.
Yeah, these things happen and it's hard. You have to work through them and, focus on you and what makes you happy and making it strong.
That's where you really have to love yourself, right? Yeah. Like really feel good about yourself. And I've learned a lot, and Jackie, I know this is your business, but you can really train yourself to love yourself more. Like I really do that. I mean, how you take care of yourself physically, the food you put in your body, and the same way with the things that you put into your mind, who you listen to, how you get affected by or don't get affected by other people and other negative things around you. And it is tough right now. It was like sometimes even driving on the road, maybe it's more imagination, but it seems like the drivers on the road now are just.
I don't know. Around here, everyone is just on the horn all the time.
Isn't that true?
It's just this area of the country too, because when I go other places, it's not like this. But it's very aggressive and cranky around here.
And I'm as bad as everybody else. Like I have this preconceived notion that every Subaru driver in the world is going to drive in the fast lane at the exact speed limit. That is it's not true. That's how I see. So when I'm driving on the highway and I'm in no hurry, and somebody's getting in the fast lane on 95. 95 is a major thoroughfare going from north to south, and they're all going 55 miles an hour in the fast lane. And I try to say to myself, Tom, stop. It's not a big deal. You're in no hurry to get home. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But I'll get on that highway, and I'm just.
I know road rage is one of those things where we all get like triggered for some reason.
Yeah. Even though you know what's going to happen, you see yourself don't do it. You do it anyways, right? Wow.
You have to have a lot of self-control and kind of be in a relaxed mindset if you can.
This is years ago. My sons and I used to go to the gym together after school was done.
Nice.
And we would have to get a 95. And my youngest son, we're in that phase of life where we were just not getting along. I couldn't say to him, he couldn't say to me. It was that phase. We're fantastic now. We love each other to death. He's a fantastic son. And he's a fantastic son then, but we just couldn't see eye to eye. So we would warm up in the gym before we go lift weights. We'd play some basketball, get loosened up. So one day, all of a sudden, I'm not facing him, and he throws the ball off the back of my head, the basketball. Now I'm turning around thinking, it must have been an accident or something like that, right? There's no accident. He just looks at me like this look like, have you got a problem with that? Now, so this, here's your subconscious, my subconscious work. So a bunch of things that happened previously that over the years, we just were butting heads all the time. So I lost my mind. I said, get in the car. We're going home. So now I'm already totally irate. I get on 95 and oh God, it was a mess.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh, we got the funniest thing was though, I dropped him off at his mother's and their house was at the end of the driveway. If you kept going towards the house, there was a little ravine. It wasn't like it was a 100-foot drop, but it was far enough that the car would go into this little ditch.
Okay.
So he gets out of the car, walks in front of the car, and turns and gives me this look like he didn't say the words F you, but he looked like he was wanting to say the words. So now I lost my mind. I wasn't going to hit him right back. I went to get out of the car to confront him, and I forgot to put the car in the park.
Oh no.
So the car starts rolling a little bit, but I was able to get back in and stop it. And then I said, I'm out of here. I left. Now he was smart enough. He was smart enough to wait for a couple of days, and we were in the gym and we were getting along well and everything like that. And he goes, man, that would have been pretty funny if that car rode down the hill.
Oh my God.
I just about died laughing when he said that because it was true. But it's funny how, okay, so what's going on in our minds then where did you get that? I knew to myself, Tom, I've gone way over the top there. And I knew I had, but I still continued on. Is that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like a biological reaction that we have. Our mind has all sorts of things going on, all sorts of triggers based on what you've experienced. And I mean, think about, where we came from. If we were out in the wilderness and we were, quote unquote, attacked or felt attacked in any way, we would just react, right? Because that was how we would save our life. It's how we preserve ourselves. So it hasn't quite caught up with, I guess, present day. And we have to, consciously work on, I'm not in any actual danger. Let me reel it back in and have an appropriate response, right?
Yeah, totally. All right, got a couple of good questions here. Deb, we make fun of Deb with her name all the time. Miners Hagen Anderson. So she's a loyal listener, great person. Jackie, how far back can you go with a person under hypnosis, like say a childhood trauma?
Yes, so you can regress back fully in your lifetime. You can also, not everyone believes in this, but you can also regress if you believe in past lives. You can regress back to other times. You can regress back to your dreams. You can regress back to being in the womb. Our subconscious mind is like a little video recorder, and it records every experience we've ever had. So even if we're not consciously remembering it, because that would be too much information to always have going on, and our brain is, if you have a childhood trauma, your brain is protecting you typically by a lot of the times repressing it. Sometimes we remember things, but a lot of times it'll repress most of it or some of it. Because it would be too much. It would be too overwhelming for the system.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. So you can go back to the womb.
Yeah.
Really? So, but what would, like a noise or something like that while you're in the womb that scared you or what?
Yeah, it could just be even like a feeling. Like sometimes people will regress back and just remember like, oh, because they can feel mom's or dad's like kind of energy, they felt stressed or, that kind of thing, or they were happy. Yeah.
So I guess if it was if a tough pregnancy or the mother was in a tough situation during pregnancy, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, they might, have some of that. And typically that is just, if there's, for some reason, you're having an issue that just cannot be resolved, regressing back to this current lifetime, then you might explore those other things. But typically you don't need to go there to really find anything. It's just a lot of
if there's some situation that's going on in your life, you're having some issue, you may not know that something happened to you in the womb, but when
you wouldn't know. Yeah, you wouldn't know.
So then you get
unless
in that
someone told you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but then once you get in that hypnotic state, will you then realize it did happen in the womb or not necessarily?
So when you are under hypnosis, you are able to access a lot of things that you aren't able to access in your normal waking state. So you can access, with the right intention, if there are certain, if it relates to what you're working on, we can regress back and find kind of what's getting in your way, how to heal that. But I don't regress people back to, traumatic memories on purpose. We don't regress back to on a hunt for traumatic memories. I just don't think that's ethical. We don't do that. But if someone's like, hey, I'm afraid of flying. Okay, let's do a regression. Let's see, maybe what came up, in your past that created this fear, which may have nothing to do with flying, but your mind somehow made this association and now you don't get on a plane.
Right.
So there's just different things to look
Right.
for.
So you don't necessarily say, okay, I'm going back to a specific time. I just need to figure out, okay, what's the problem? Where did it happen? What point in the person's life? Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's very cool. Wow.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Okay. Here's our good friend, Ron Jameson again. Are there positives that stay in your subconscious weeks after being hypnotized? Keywords, trigger, negative, downfall?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the whole point of, going under hypnosis, and we reprogram with all the things you're wanting, right? So those typically stay with you. And then I make audios for my clients to reinforce, because you need about 21 days to create a new positive habit, right? If your brain is always used to thinking some negative thought, we need some retraining to get it to switch over to create a new neural pathway in your brain. So
it is 21 days to create a new habit, a new thought, right? I've heard different numbers. That's what I always thought it was 21.
I always thought it was 21, between 21 and 30. I usually tell people just do this for 30 days just to make sure, but 21 days typically.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's how I met Barry Shelley, actually. No, that was not how I met him. I apologize. He'd sent me some stuff to sign. But we had before, and I got to get back to doing it again. We had a thing called the 21-day challenge for
Nice.
Tom. So basically what it was, I'd say to people, again, you don't have to get up at 3:30 in the morning like I do, but if there's something if there's something you want to do in your life, but you say you don't have enough time, let's start getting up an hour earlier. Post a video online of pouring a cup of coffee, whatever drink it is, and the time you're getting up. Barry was great. He built that's obviously not a regular ice rink with ice in it, but it built a simulated rink up in his attic. Hockey rink.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's taken off in there. Yeah. It was pretty cool. But again, it was really interesting to see that happen, where people all started to pull together to help each other that didn't know each other necessarily, with the 21-day challenge, cheering each other on. So a 21-day challenge, you want to accomplish something. Is the idea then that once you've gotten to, I guess it isn't that exact date, but once you now have, let's say you want to lose weight. So you go on a 21-day challenge to lose 10 pounds. But then the theory isn't that you've now conquered that. You still have to continue to work on whatever that issue is, right?
Yeah, it's more about the consistency for 21 days. If you're building a new habit, what are you doing every single day, the same thing over and over, to make it more of an automatic behavior for yourself?
Right. It's the same thing. So like with alcoholism or some addiction, right? You're always an addict. If you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. Even if you stop drinking, you're just maintaining the fat or keeping that under control. Is that accurate to say that?
I think there's different, I think some people report they no longer, have the urge, but I know a lot of people still report they do have that urge. So I think it just depends on the person.
Right. Do you deal with people with alcoholism?
I have had people come across, but I don't treat people with alcoholism. I have helped a few people, with a drinking habit, but not to the extent of alcoholism. I would probably refer that out.
It's going to be pretty hard, right? I mean, I know if I told the story up, but when I grew up playing hockey in Canada into my pro career, I'm not proud of saying this, but it was part of the bonding experience was beer drinking. We always were drinking beer together. And if I told you something, when I got out of the playing world and started becoming an agent, I got clients, now young boys, that were calling me at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. I was still in that mode where I'm sitting around having 6, 8, 10 beers. That's just, I'd lived that life. And it was awful, because it made me realize, like, I wake up in the morning and was I able to communicate properly? Did I remember everything that the player said to me? And it really scared me, because I started then looking back at my life. Tom, I've been doing this for the last 15 years. I've been in the hockey world. And it was great, though. I didn't intend to, but I eventually got to the point where I didn't drink for 5 years. And it was, I don't know if did I tell you this story?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did. That's right. Yeah. Because the biggest thing to me was worrying what other people were going to think about me not drinking. Right?
Right. Yeah. Well, you probably did wonders for your health by.
Oh, totally. Oh, God. Yeah. And it just, and again, it was, I remember talking about this before. It was, and the big thing I learned from it too was I don't let anybody dictate how I'm going to do things now. I don't mean to be mean about that, but so I was worried about what somebody else think about me not drinking. And I look back about it now, like how that was my concern. Like that was,
Yeah. Exactly.
It is amazing how you look for, is it a natural thing for people to look for other people's approval and stuff? Is that natural?
Yeah, because we're meant to be like in communities and tribes, and we need that kind of, validation or acceptance to, back in the day, like when we were way, 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 way back,
Yeah.
we would need that for survival. We needed to be together in packs, right? So if
Right.
we didn't have that acceptance and we were an outcast, we are going to get eaten by a lion, or we're going to die pretty quick alone out in wherever we are.
Wow.
So, there is some of that. But today, obviously it goes above and beyond where people seek out validation for every little thing. And you want to really, you know, get solid in yourself, figure out who you are. There's a lot of noise out there, and just,
Right.
you know,
That's interesting because like I can relate to the hockey world where not exactly, but everybody would want to talk the same way, wear the same clothes, eat
Yeah.
the same foods, think the same way. Like we would go out together after a practice or a game, and we'd all sit there at the bar having drinks together. And we'd all start talking about the same thing. We'd pick on a coach. Well, this coach doesn't know what he's doing, And once one person said it, then everybody jumped in. I think back about it now. It's like it took me a while to get away from that, to think on my own,
Yeah.
to not think. And listen, I love the hockey world. I wouldn't change a thing in my life, but I now realize I don't have to think like everybody else. Like I can get up in front of 18,000 people and dance at Madison Square Garden and not really care whether my
That's
teammates
great.
like it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. All right. We had a question here, I think, coming up here from Murray. Well, it's trying to get me going on a boat cruise. I am not afraid of water, but I think if I get on the ocean, I can't see land. I might panic. Oh, wow. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, so people have so many different fears, and a lot of times they seem irrational to us, but there could be just something underlying. It could even just be like a fear of like loss of control, or
Yeah.
there could be so many things like not even related to the water. But it's going to be different for each person. So I don't know the exact answer to your question unless I really work
Sit
with
down.
you. But there could be multiple reasons why that's happening.
That's it. That's the same. You mentioned the control thing. That's for me when I'm driving over a bridge, particularly driving over a bridge.
Oh, really?
I feel like I'm going to lose control. Like I'm going to drive the car off.
Oh,
Yeah. Totally. I'm awful with heights. It kind of comes and goes. I have to force myself. Like if I've got an option to move over in the middle, I say, no, I'm going to stay on the outside and force myself. But it's a struggle.
Yeah. I mean, that's good though. If you can get yourself a little bit out of your, comfort zone and keep doing that, it can get easier over time.
Right. I think I told you about the claustrophobia I've got going now.
No.
I don't think I was claustrophobic before, because when I played, we'd always have to get MRIs for injuries and stuff, and I could get in the tube. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, a doctor was doing some tests on me and wanted me to get an MRI. And I went down to the city, and there's these young people who knew who I was, the hockey player, and I'm joking around and being funny, a whole bit. And so they go to slide me in the tube, and I'm so tight that my nose is right up against the top of the tube.
Oh.
I started to panic a little bit. I said, listen, you need to get me out of here. They thought I was just joking around.
Oh, no.
So they kept sliding me in there. And I was like, get me out of here.
And that's pretty tight. If your nose is touching the thing, that's pretty tight.
And he even tried. I've got it's so bad in my mind now that even the open MRIs, the open ones, I couldn't do that. It's in my head now that I have these thoughts. Again, it's a control thing. It's feeling like, what if there's an earthquake? Everybody leaves the building and I'm stuck in the tube. That's what goes on in my mind.
I mean, these thoughts are real. I think we all in those panicky situations have those types of thoughts.
Well, this is my good friend Becky DeVito here. He's going to fast year. I've had the same feelings go over a bridge.
Yeah.
So you do what you do. I mean, listen, you obviously have things that you are inside you. You don't need to tell me what it is, but are you able to kind of help yourself, or do you have to have somebody else help you with any issues you have, like it's claustrophobia or heights?
Right. I can do some work on myself, but if it's something that I really need to work on, I will have a colleague or somebody else work with me, because we all have blind spots. It's hard to really do some deeper work on your own self, right? You need someone to help you with that.
Okay. Wow. This has been a great session. Thank you very much. That whole subconscious thing, I just never put it that way. So because there's been times I think to myself, I was joking around about it, but I think like I'm a stubborn jerk. I let things linger from the past. That's the way your subconscious works, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, great to see you again. I hope you had a great 4th.
You too.
Maybe you're not that bad a person after all. I'm kidding. I want to make sure people know that I'm joking. I was joking around with Jackie saying everybody likes her more than me. So I don't want people to think that I'm picking on Jackie. I pick on enough people. So good to see you again. I'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.